All right, it's about 10 a.m. Pacific time here, so I'm going ahead and get started here. Hello everyone. My name is Jordan Pedraza, and I'm a partnership manager with the Google Apps for Education team. I'm based in Mountain View, California, and I've been on the team for about a year and a half. So I work with colleges and universities currently using Google Apps for Education. So first I wanted to thank you all for taking the time to join me today for this presentation on 32 ways to use Google Apps in higher education, specifically with faculty and staff. This presentation's intended audience is Google Apps administrators, managers, trainers, and end users, but of course anyone is welcome to tune in. The 32 ways concept is actually not new. My colleague, Julia Stiglitz, presented on 32 ways to use Google Apps in K-12 classrooms earlier this year. So I decided to bring this over to higher ed, especially as more schools are deploying Google Apps for their faculty and staff. So in the bottom right-hand corner, you should see my Twitter handle, @Jordan Pedraza. So feel free to connect with me on Twitter. I also link off to my Google Plus profile page, so definitely feel free to connect with me and engage with me all over the web. So quick guidelines for today's webinar. So first, this is definitely going to be recorded. So if any of your colleagues missed out, or if you'd like to review this information in the future, we'll have this archived on YouTube when it's available. There's also a public version of this presentation, so you can follow along at your own pace or also review content afterward. So here's the link right here, and feel free to make a copy for yourself, share with your colleagues, share with your classes, etc. Do whatever you'd like with this. This is your resource. And then also, please use the Q&A window in the bottom right-hand corner for any questions. Please don't use the other chat window, as I'll only respond to the Q&A questions. If I miss your question during the webinar, I'll definitely document it and send responses out to you. So hopefully that kind of helps you understand the flow of this presentation. I'll definitely try to cover as many topics and use cases as possible. But if I'm moving too fast or too slow, definitely let me know. We'll most likely have another webinar on this topic in the future, and many more actually. So I'd appreciate any feedback, and if anything catches your attention, definitely feel free to share. And then also, I wanted to point your attention towards the hashtag, in case you want to just share what we're learning here today with anyone else. So hashtag #32waysAppsEDU. Feel free to share this out on Twitter, Google Plus, etc. In case anything strikes you and you want to share that. So the objective for today here is to show you how you can make the most out of Google Apps in compelling ways. In lots of areas, in the classroom, in your research, in committees and project groups or works, or any other work to help you increase efficiency, collaboration, and engagement. So you'll see many examples of how Google Apps allows teams to work together more effectively, and how it actually might even change the culture of your group or your class or even your school to be more open and collaborative. We've definitely heard a lot of our Google Apps schools, both in the higher ed space as well as in K-12, reflect on how Google Apps has really enhanced the culture of collaboration in their communities. So you'll definitely see lots of examples of that, and maybe even see how Google Apps can be fun. So I already mentioned there's a public version of the presentation, so here's another chance to grab the link there if you do want to follow along at your own pace. And also after this webinar, I'll send a link out of this public presentation too, if you don't want to grab it right now. So let's begin. So first, I thought it'd make sense to just quickly kind of give an overview of what's included in Google Apps for Education, so we're all on the same page. So Google Apps for Education is a free set of cloud-based communication and collaboration tools for schools. So it includes Gmail, probably the most well-known app we have at Google. You get 25 gigs of storage, lots of powerful search and labeling, and plenty of labs. So this helps you, keep everything in one place and find it. Google Talk is our integrated instant messaging, voice, and video chat service, and it's built directly into Gmail. Google Groups is a way for you to create, communicate, and share in teams of people with distribution lists or announcement lists or discussion lists. Google Calendar is a way to not only manage your own schedule and tasks and events and meetings to go to, but also a way to manage multiple calendars and view other people's schedules and even have a shared calendar. Docs, which is another kind of really popular app that we're seeing in the education space, it's a way for you to create and edit and collaborate on word processing documents, spreadsheets, presentations, and drawings in real time. And actually, just by the way, I'm actually using Google Presentations right now to present on this presentation here. And then Google Sites is a way for you to create web pages or project sites or course pages, but without any programming knowledge. And so you can insert plenty of outside content. You can embed maps, pictures, documents, forms, etc., videos on your site, again, without any knowledge of HTML or CSS or any of that. You can do it pretty much interactively. And then there's lots of other popular consumer apps out there, such as Blogger, Google+, YouTube, that you can also use in the classroom and in your research and work. So let's actually start out with Google Docs. It's kind of interesting with Google Docs. I mean, typically we've heard Gmail is probably the most popular and heavily used app that everyone's pretty familiar with. But in the last couple of years, we've actually seen a lot of growing adoption in Google Docs. We're seeing it, being really popular with more team-based, group-based collaborative activities. So I thought we should start out with Docs, since that's kind of what's the new hot app out there now, and we really want to make sure that you guys see what kind of potentials it has for you. So this will actually include the Google Docs list, word pressing documents, spreadsheets, and presentations and drawings. So use case number 1, note-taking. This is probably the most simple and common application of using Google Docs. So either you can take, individual notes for yourself, whether you're in a meeting or in your class, or if you're on a trip at a conference or something like that. You can just open up a doc really quickly and jot down your notes. It's also really helpful for group notes. Instead of having to, have a local desktop file that you have to kind of email back and forth as an attachment and worrying about different versions with a group, with Google Docs, you just open up one doc that lives on the web with one URL, and you can share it with as many people as you like and actually collaborate on it at the same time. And you don't even need to be in the same place to do that. So that's really the key value in Docs there in taking notes, because anything that changes is dynamically updated. So you don't have to worry about those long, large, annoying attachments back and forth. And actually, when you're collaborating in a doc in real time with others, you'll see colorful cursors for each collaborator, so you know where other folks are in your doc. And if you're concerned about any deletions or changes, you can always view the revision history feature we have in Docs to see what's happened and revert back to a previous version if necessary. So let's actually take a look and see how this works. So I'm going to switch to another screen here. And now you should see an example of Google Doc here on one of our test accounts. So here's just, a really simple doc. Pretty much has what you expect. You can, put in certain text, you can bold things, you can add bullets, you can add comments. And actually that's something I want to highlight here. So if you want to insert a comment, you just go to File and then Insert. And then you can add notes on, any content in your doc. So if you want to add a little comment or a side note to anything in your doc, you can do that. And the other cool thing we've done with Docs is that we tried to make comments more of a kind of conversation or a workflow. So for example here, you can start out with just one note or thread on your comment, and then you can always reply to it, and others can reply to it. And you can even tag individuals in your comments. So maybe you want to call your colleagues' attention to one specific section in your doc. So if you just do the plus sign and then start typing in their name or email address, they'll be kind of called to attention to look at that particular section in your doc. And actually, this is integrated with Gmail. So when I plug in Jeff here, for example, this triggers an email notification to his Gmail inbox for him to take a look at my doc. So he'll see a link to my doc, and he can open it and then go back to my doc and see the comment I made directed to him. Or if he was really lazy, he could actually just reply to that Gmail message, and then his comment will populate back into the doc there. So definitely check out the commenting feature in Google Docs. Now let's focus on some of the other sharing capabilities in Google Docs. So I'm going to open up that same doc here from my docs list. So as I mentioned earlier, you have a lot of the standard features that you would expect. Different text. You can change the sizes, fonts, colors, adding hyperlinks, images, all that, 90% of what you need is already there. But sharing is probably the most valuable tool here. So if I click on this share button in the upper right-hand corner, I'll see a few options in how I want to share this document. So after you begin working on a doc with your group or even just yourself, with just clicking that one button, again, you don't need to worry about emailing an attachment. You just click on share, and then you see a few things. First, here's a link to share. So if you want to make a document really widely accessible, if you want to just post it somewhere so that anyone can access it with just that link, this is what you can use. So then I could take this link here, just copy it, and I could post it on a website somewhere, on Google+, on Twitter, on Facebook, wherever I'd like, so that if I just want to make it really easy for anyone to take a look at a doc, maybe a task force report or a syllabus, I can make that really easy to access. And then also I can customize who I share that document with. Maybe I don't want to have the doc publicly accessible to everyone, as you can see right here. I can always change that. So if I click on change, I can customize it down to different levels. I can say maybe only people within my school should see the doc. Maybe people only with the link in my school should see the doc. Or maybe just private, so that only me can access it. And then I can also change what other people can do with my doc. So right now I have it set to anyone can view it, but they can't make any changes. But I can also say, maybe I want other people to comment on my doc but not make any changes, so I can do that. Or I can say, I want people to be able to make changes on my doc too. And then lastly, I can always share with specific people. I just go into the Add People box and start typing in someone's name, and they should auto-complete here. So I can share specific documents with specific people. And again, I can always choose whether they have edit access, commenting access, viewing access. And I can even add a couple of personalizations to it. I can notify my colleague via email when I share a document with them. I can add a personal message when I share the doc so they know a little bit more context about it. I can choose to copy myself. I can paste the direct doc in an email. So there's lots of ways for you to share the content that you're working on. So we've seen this very popular with committees, having to meet, once a week or once a month, having one set agenda in one place so it dynamically updates. So we've had lots of schools, leverage docs for a lot of their committee meetings. And the nice thing about doing it this way is that, you can kind of type up your agenda notes before your meeting so that attendees can actually listen in during the meeting. And then I already mentioned you don't have to worry about version control. So if you just go to File and see Revision History, I can always view a history of all the changes made on my doc. So it's color-coded by each person that is shared on the doc, and I can see the date and times when certain changes were made. And then here it's even color-coded, so I can see, oh, Jordan made this little addition here a few months ago. And it even shows you very granular changes. So if you want to kind of walk through the history of a doc, like right now I'm going back to the very beginning, and then maybe I want to jump ahead to here. Okay, that's what happened a couple weeks later. You can always restore back to an older version in case any mistakes were made or you just want to kind of go back and see the history of a doc. And the other thing I wanted to mention is if you're using Google Docs with our Chrome browser with Google, you can even access your docs to read offline. So that's a quick little functionality you can add in your docs list. And pretty soon we're also working on the ability for you to edit that doc offline too. So it's not available yet, but you can at least read them offline. And the other quick thing I wanted to show is that you can also export your doc. You can always download it. Just go to File, Download As, and then I could download this doc into several different formats. PDF, Word document, text file, HTML, whatever you'd like, so you can access it offline, or if you need to put it in another format. So that's kind of like the probably most popular feature we see with docs, but there's definitely lots of other ways, and let me run through some of those. So I mentioned the docs list earlier, and basically this is a way for you to store all of your files in the cloud. So this includes your native Google Docs, like the one I just showed you, spreadsheets, presentations, and then also non-Google Docs, like PDFs and Word documents and Excel spreadsheets. You can even store pictures and videos up there. So it's kind of similar with Docs. You can access your Docs list on any device. As long as you're logged into your Google Apps account, you can be on your laptop, on your tablet, on your smartphone, at home, wherever you are, you can access it because it's all in the cloud. So there's lots of ways to navigate through your content. Let me actually show you back to that docs list here. So here's a sample docs list. There's lots of ways for you to navigate. You can always just do search. That's our bread and butter here at Google. So if you just want to find your docs, you just start typing in any keywords, and we have instant search populate anything that matches that. So that's one way to access something. And there's lots of ways to filter and drill down. So if you click on a drop-down menu there, you can filter down by looking at only at my PDFs or only my spreadsheets. Maybe I only want to see things that are owned by me, or maybe I want to see things depending on how visible they are. So there's lots of ways for you to kind of drill down and organize your content. You can also create collections, and actually we've seen one school in particular, University of Delaware, some of their professors have used collections to work on proposals together. So with a collection, it's kind of like a shared folder. What you can do is kind of have multiple documents stored in one folder or one collection, and then you can kind of do similar things with it as with the doc. So let's say over here in my collections, let's say I want my CS 101 collection. So I have a couple of docs in here. So I could, have different settings on it. I could say, let me share this whole collection with my colleagues or with my class. Maybe I want to, rename it to something or change the color or download all the files all together. So it's a nice, powerful repository. Again, it's all in the cloud, so you can access it anywhere at any time. So it's a nice way to kind of dump your files into one folder so everyone has access to them. And we've seen it be really popular with students in colleges and universities too, because it can also be used as a way to submit assignments. I think one of the faculty at Central Piedmont Community College in North Carolina, they've been using collections as a way for students to submit assignments. So what a professor will do is have students create a Google Doc, for a writing assessment or something like that, and then dump it into a class shared collection. And then that way the professor has everyone's assignments in one place. Let's see. Another way to use Google Docs is you can also have students complete their assignments on them, kind of what I just mentioned over at CPCC. So what we see really exciting about Docs is that it can change the writing process. Instead of kind of the more traditional model where a student goes, works on their own, on their paper, prints it out and sends it back in and then waits for comments and, revises them later. With Docs, that process can happen a little bit more dynamically and instantaneously. So if a student's, creating a doc on the web and shares with their professor right then and there, they can kind of collaborate in more, real time together. And so the professor or instructor becomes more of a writing coach, rather than just a kind of distant participant in this activity. And then also, when we mentioned revision history earlier, it's a nice way to kind of see, especially in a group project, how much everyone has contributed to the work and when. Because you have, a living archive of, which users have made what changes and at what times. So you can actually, do a nice audit check to see who's really contributing and who's slacking off. And then also, when I mentioned with commenting and discussions earlier, it's another way to provide instant feedback, so kind of shortening those delays with that feedback loop there. And actually, you'll see a link there to a case study that we published about how Docs, really enhances this writing process between students and faculty. So let's move on a little bit to Spreadsheets. We're actually starting to see Spreadsheets adoption also pick up a little bit. So it's kind of similar to Docs in that it's all in the cloud. It's your basic spreadsheet processing service. So, you can go into cells, enter data, make charts and graphs, do all the basic things you need to do. But the powerful thing about it is that it lives on the web. It's really easy to share and collaborate with others in real time. So a few use cases we've seen with Spreadsheets are tracking things, such as attendance. Especially, making sure, okay, how many students have been attending, who's been out sick, who's been there and participating and who hasn't. And of course, using the revision history to see a history of those changes. So it's a nice way to keep track of all that kind of information. Same with grades. We're definitely seeing Spreadsheets being used for that. So you can use conditional formatting in Spreadsheets to customize, how your cells look. You can say, if a cell is under, 65%, make it red. If it's higher than 90%, make it green. And then we also make it really easy for you to insert charts and graphs. So, depending on what you want to track in there, it's really easy for you to keep track of. And then another kind of, way this helps with efficiency is because it lives on the web, instead of having your students kind of bother you and ask for updates on their grades and how they're doing in their class, you can just have, assign students anonymous numbers and then have all their grades or anything that you're tracking. And then post it, share the link over email or even print it out, however you want to share it out with your students. I've definitely heard of a math professor do that in one of his classes. So it's a nice way to have students check where they stand without them having to bug you all the time. So that's another nice way to use that. And actually, let me just show you a quick example of that too while we're on that. So here's just an example of using Google Spreadsheets to track grades or assignments. So here I've had conditional formatting on my spreadsheet, so I can kind of customize how that all looks. And then here's a graph below. So if I just go to Insert and then Graph or Chart, I can create all kinds of different graphs: bar graphs, line graphs, pie charts, etc. So definitely feel free to play around with it. And then another thing I wanted to show you about Spreadsheets is that it's very dynamic. So what this means is that you can pull in data from all over the web into your spreadsheet. And this is what makes Google Spreadsheets in our platform very different. So aside from all the basic, essential functionality that you need, putting in data, editing your cells, formatting, protecting the sheet, all the charts and graphs, and also all the sharing, we have other functions, and this is a little bit more advanced, but other functions for you to kind of pull in data from the web dynamically. So, a lot of headaches from ugly copying and pasting can be removed from this. So this can actually make your class sessions more dynamic, make a lecture, a little bit more engaging, or even just help you with your research on your own a little bit better if you're trying to track trends and make sure that you're keeping them up to date. And this can actually be fun to use with students too, as they can, research sources out there and cite them accordingly and work with data. So let's actually go to an example on one of the functions that we're highlighting here. So let's say I was looking at Wikipedia and I saw a table from demographics of India that I wanted to pull into a dynamic spreadsheet to share with my class. So let's say I found a table on demographics here. What percentage of population is a certain religious demographic, something like that. So if I go to my spreadsheet, all I need to do is use one of our import HTML functions. So I go to a cell here, and I type in equals import HTML. And then first I put in the URL that I want. So obviously it's going to be from Wikipedia, so I just kind of copied and pasted the URL up here and put this back in quotation marks. Then next I want a table. And then I add a number for which table that I want. So we actually have a page of how all these functions work, the kind of syntax that you would need. So it's really easy to kind of take and apply what you need. But I just wanted to show a quick example. So I use this function here, and then here's the data. Here's the population stats based on certain years for the demographics in India. So there's plenty of other functions that we have that work similar to this. And also the cool thing here is that if you've pulled in data from another source, we'll link dynamically to it in that cell there. So I can always go back to see where it came from. So in this public presentation, I link off to the example, and then also we have an entire list of even more functions and examples and things that you can do with spreadsheets. So another kind of more advanced but dynamic way to engage with spreadsheets is gadgets. That's another, I think, differentiator with our platform. So it really allows you to kind of customize it and make it more robust. So motion charts is a little similar to what I showed you earlier. It allows you to create and view content dynamically, but you don't have to download anything. You don't need any program experience here then. It's just a few clicks and copying and pasting. So if you wanted to insert a gadget in your spreadsheet, you just go to your spreadsheet. So let me show you that real quick. So if you go to Insert and then Gadget, you'll see lots of gadgets that you can add to your spreadsheet, such as motion charts, which I'm going to show you in a second, interactive time series, more customized charts, other ways to show and analyze your data. Here's a gauges chart. So this can be really helpful, again, for your class if you want to show a relationship between variables. Maybe you want to use that in a lecture if you want to make that kind of spice it up. Or even just for your own kind of project planning with a group. Like maybe you want to use a gauge to track progress on where you are with a certain goal, maybe for fundraising. There's lots of kinds of gadgets out here. We have gadgets for maps, like let's say you have a lot of data on locations and you want to map them out for your class, maybe for kind of a virtual field trip or just kind of showcasing different locations in a certain area. There's gadgets for that. And there's gadgets for finance, so that could be interesting. And then there's even custom gadgets. If you really wanted to, dive deep into it, you can add your own gadgets in there. So let me quickly show you the motion charts gadget. So let's say you have some data on plants. You have, a couple of variables here, and then when I insert in the motion charts gadget, all I have to do is just take my data, and it creates the chart for me. So let's actually go to a separate tab to look at it more closely. So here's my motion chart. So there's lots of things I can do here. I can customize, what kind of colors that my variables have, what size they are, what variables I want to show. And then the kind of most dynamic thing here is that I have a dynamic scroll bar to kind of see the relationship change over time. So here I'm looking at the relationship between plant height and number of leaves, for example. So I can really dynamically show to my audience what's going on here. And I can even play it as a movie. And this is done all over the web. Again, I didn't need to download anything. I didn't know any computer science, anything like that. I just insert a gadget and it does the work for me. So that's really exciting to see. It has a lot of potential for really making talks and class time really engaging. Another example of gadgets is actually with AppScript. And AppScript is for kind of more the developer crowd, but it's a way for you to kind of add your own customizations and automated triggers and processes across Google Apps. So if you are really strapped for time and have Google Apps Script grade quizzes for you, let's say, you can insert a gadget to do that. So there's a company called Flubaroo. They've made a third-party tool based on AppScript that allows you to customize the grading scheme for a quiz, import the data in your Google spreadsheet, and then grade that criteria for you. So there are links to the company and how to use this tool here on the public presentation, but I thought I'd just showcase that off. So if you really wanted to make the most out of our gadgets and scripts in Google Spreadsheets, you can do that. And then the last thing I wanted to show in the Doc Suite was presentations. So you might have heard that we just launched a new presentations editor in Google Docs a couple of months ago. So it's really much more powerful and robust. It's a lot more faster. It's a lot more smoother. I'm using it right now actually to present on this presentation here. So there's lots of more features like slide transitions and animations and more fonts and more themes. And it's more polished, more of a sophisticated look to Google presentations. So I definitely encourage you to try it out. Just go to your Docs list and create a new presentation. Let me just show you how to explore that real quick. So if I just go to my Google Docs list and I click on the Create button, you see a drop-down menu of how to create new content. So create a new document, presentation, spreadsheet, form, drawing. It's all there. Just play around with it and try it out. And then specifically with how we see schools use presentations, it's really great for end-of-year final presentations time. Actually, we're at that time of the year right now. So have everyone upload their Google presentation kind of final project into one, big slide of all the decks, so then you can just kind of go through your presentations much more quickly and efficiently in limited class time. So that wraps it up for our session on Google Docs. I added a link here to our Google Apps for Education Online Training Center. So Module 4 has kind of more step-by-step guides on how to use these products we talked about. So definitely feel free to take a look at that documentation there. And there's some quick, neat little videos, too, in case you want to see that again. So I think you all heard me mention forms, and that's a nice extension of the Doc Suite. So that's what I'll transition over to now. So forms you can actually kind of think of as a cousin to spreadsheets. It is powered by spreadsheets, but it's a really nice way for you to collect your data and analyze it. So let's take a look at how schools are using spreadsheets and forms. So probably the most popular and obvious use case here is kind of with the test quiz use case. So one is for student assessments. So they're obviously a great way to create a series of questions for others to fill out. And again, you don't need any programming experience. So you can post a form on a site, you can embed it in an email, or you can just add the link to pretty much anywhere. It lives on the web, so if you ever need to go back and make a change to your form, you can update it dynamically without even changing that URL. So this makes grading, a lot faster and easier. And, there's different ways for you to, customize what kind of questions you're asking. So let's actually show you an example. So here's kind of the end finished product. Like after you've created your form, this is what it's going to look like. You can customize the look and feel of it, the title, and then here's your questions. So here's a sample kind of math assessment. So you can have your students answer the questions here. And then they just answer their questions. So that's what it looks like on the front end. Here's another example. You have a quick pop quiz. Again, you can customize, having a multiple choice, a grid scale, and then you can have your students submit. What does it look like on the back end, though? So on the back end, what happens when people fill in your quiz or your form, we automatically populate their responses in a Google spreadsheet. And it's all called the same name, if you have a Google spreadsheet or a Google form. It's all integrated. So you can see their answers and their timestamp. So this is actually pretty cool for maybe a timed quiz. You can see when a student submitted all their answers. And then you see their answers right there. And that's where Flubaroo came into play. If I wanted to insert a gadget to grade all this for me, I could do that. So here again, here's another example of a pop quiz. I can customize lots of different questions. I can have a short text kind of question, multiple choice, check boxes so they can select multiple answers, or even paragraph answers. So there's lots of different ways for you to edit your form. And let me just show you what that looks like. So if I just click on Form here, Edit Form, so here's where I can always go back and make changes. I can change the theme. So there's lots of different themes you can use. I can change the questions. There's lots of different types of questions I can choose from. And then I can choose how I want to share this form. I can say I want to email it. I want to embed it somewhere. I want to edit the confirmation people see when they are done with their responses. So there's lots of ways for you to customize your form. So we're definitely seeing this being used for assessments, also for kind of more surveys. I know a lot of times faculty need to get feedback on their courses, at the end of the year, end of semester or quarter. So forms can be a great way to do that. Instead of having to take the time to print out all the forms and collect them, and then, oops, I spilled my coffee on it, there it goes. Do it all over the web. Make it really simple and even kind of fun for your students to share feedback on your class or just general information about themselves. You can also use forms for a poll. So you can kind of do away with clickers and save some money and time by having everyone fill out a form, kind of as a quick, poll in a talk or in your class. And the great thing about forms is that you can access them anywhere. Same with how we talked about Google Docs. You can share a link with your students and they can insert their responses on smartphones and on tablets. So you can kind of have a dynamic in-class poll going on there, because as responses are submitted, they're shown in real time in your Google spreadsheet. And then so you can also see, a summary of responses when those answers are coming in. So I already mentioned, a pop quiz. And the nice thing about, forms is that you can embed them in lots of different ways. You can embed your quiz in an email. So if you just want your students to take the quiz on their email account, then you can do that. And then also, forms are, definitely really helpful for recruiting for research and lab participants. So we've definitely seen some schools leverage forms for that. If you need to get some participants in to study, maybe students are working on a thesis and they need to interview participants or survey them. This is another way to get signups and have it all in one place so you can kind of see who's interested in participating. So here's an example here. I linked off to it. Oops, that's the wrong one. I'm sorry about that. But anyways, so that's another way for you to recruit your participants. Let me show you that other example there real quick. Let's see. And then, again, we have another module on forms in our Google Apps for Education Learning Center. So feel free to take a look at more videos and archived webinars about going in depth and how you can use forms in your classrooms and your work. Let's move on to Google Calendar. So Google Calendar is a way for you to manage your schedule, but also manage a group schedule. So just a couple of ways to use your calendar. Obviously, the straightforward way is to manage your own life. You can customize the color of your calendar. You can share it with others. You can even make it public. So that's just like the basic, essential requirement there. Have all your meetings in one place, everything that you need to do. But you can also create multiple calendars and kind of overlay them here. So if you look at my example, I have one kind of gray schedule for all my classes, and then maybe I can have, red or purple for personal things or, more social things. So I can look at, different kinds of categories going on, and I can always select which things are visible and which things shouldn't be. And then also sharing your calendar. So we've definitely seen a lot of schools use calendars for shared kind of group activities, such as sharing a group calendar for your class, a calendar with your TAs, calendar with your committee, so that anyone in the group can schedule events and all have the same reminders. We've even seen some schools, such as at Northwestern, I think, use a shared calendar as a way to kind of delegate tasks to other people. So then that way there's an automatic reminder for certain deadlines. And again, same with Docs, you can access Google Calendar anywhere, at your office, on your phone, on your tablet while you're traveling, and even offline if you're using the Chrome browser. So there's definitely lots of ways to access your calendar. Let me just show you a quick example of a calendar. So here's an example of, different ways I can use my calendar. I have one color code for all my class activities. I have another color code for maybe a specific class. Maybe my econ class I want to have in red. Maybe Spanish I can have in blue. Maybe I have purple for, kind of more recruiting or, extracurricular things that I'm involved with. So, I can always look at which calendars I'm using on this left-hand side here. And if I don't want to see a calendar, I just click off of it and then it removes. So I can always customize what I'm looking at. The other thing I wanted to mention is that with calendar you can also book resources. So let's say I wanted to schedule a meeting with a colleague. So this is how I would do that. I just, click on the events, type in the relevant information. I can change the time zone. If it's a recurring event, I can customize that. I can say whether it's weekly or monthly, etc. So all the basic stuff there. You can, add, an attachment to the events. I can do all of that. And then here's where I invite my guests. I just start typing in their names, and they're invited to my event. The other thing I can also do is book a room, maybe a conference room, or I want to book a projector. I can add all of these resources in my kind of school or organization to add to my event. And you might have seen something about appointment slots in that view there. So this is a new feature we just rolled out in Google Calendar this year. So it's a way for you to kind of book a slot of times that others can schedule with you. And again, this is done all over the web. So it's kind of similar to how you would create an event. Let's go back to my general calendar here. And let's say I wanted to schedule office hours. So I just kind of hover over the spot, on a certain day. And instead of clicking on events, I click appointment slots. So then I can say it's office hours. And then I can either choose it as a single appointment slot. Maybe I just want to have only one slot. Or I want to offer groups of slots in 30 minutes or 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I can customize all of that. So let's say I want to offer slots of 10 minutes. So I just click on Create Slots, and then there you are. And then I can tell that they're, office hours or appointment slots by the little icon there. So then if I want to go back and, share these slots with anyone, I just click on the event. And then here's the link. So I'll just share that with anyone that needs to schedule an appointment with me. I can share that with my class, my colleagues, my, my committee group, etc. And then they can go to this link and schedule a meeting with me. And then when anyone schedules a slot, that will appear back on both of our calendars. So I definitely encourage you to try appointment slots out. Another probably really popular way to use Google Calendar is to share your calendar with a specific person that might want to schedule events on your behalf. So we definitely get asked about this a lot with schools looking at Google Apps for their faculty and staff. Hey, can you delegate access to your calendar? Yes, absolutely. You can share your calendar with an assistant, with your TA, with whoever who needs to make that schedule happen for you. So all you do in your calendar is just enter in the person that you want to share that calendar with, and then you can say whether they have ability to make all changes in sharing, maybe only make changes to events, only just see your schedule, or only just see your free busy status. So there's lots of ways for you to customize who has access to what. When we link off to further instructions on how to delegate your calendar to someone, I can also show you that really quickly too. So if I just hover over my calendar, I can go on Share This Calendar. And then here's where I choose kind of an overall setting. I can choose to share, if I even want to share my calendar with others. That's totally optional. If you don't want to, you just uncheck that box. I can even make it public too. So there's different options. Or I could share with specific people. It's pretty similar to a doc, right? So I start entering someone's name. Maybe Lauren's my assistant. And then I want to say she can make changes to events. So then once I save that, Lauren will now have access to my calendar, and then she can book meetings for me on my behalf. So that's Google Calendar. Let's see. Just one more thing on, we also have a module on Google Calendar, so feel free to check that out if you want to learn more. So let's talk a little bit about Gmail. I imagine a lot of you are already pretty familiar with Gmail, so I won't spend too much time here. But let me show you just a few tips and tricks we've seen other schools do and what we think might help you get through your email even faster. So one thing that I think, is not as well known as it could be is, there's a way for you to manage your tasks in Gmail, too, on the web. So if you actually just go into your Gmail, in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see a tasks option. And then that's where you can view your tasks. So here I can insert my tasks. I have my due dates, I have activities, I have things I need to do. And I can always mark them as done and completed and delete them as needed. And the nice thing here is that, I can access these tasks anywhere. It's kind of similar to how our whole platform works. It's all on the web. And there's lots of little other tricks I can do with my tasks. I can email my tasks, I can print them out, I can sort them in different orders. So let me just show you that really quickly. So let's say I'm just looking at my mail, and I click over here and look at tasks. So then in the bottom right-hand corner, my tasks will pop up here. So here's where I can add new things that I need to do. I can sort them. There's all different kinds of things I just mentioned that I can do there with my tasks. And another thing we try to do with Gmail is help you do whatever you need to do so you can spend less time on your email and go on to more productive things. So one of the ways we hear everyone using Gmail is with labels. So you can store, kind of one message in multiple categories with labels. So you can kind of think of them as folders or stickers. So it's a way for you to kind of organize and file things. And you can always customize the color of your labels and the names of them. You can add sub-labels and, add all kinds of hierarchies that you'd want to do. And then there's also plenty of filters. So if you want to star certain things from certain people or if they have certain subjects or keywords, you can choose to delete it, block it, never send to spam, always mark it as important. So there's lots of filters you can use to help you manage your inbox. And then also, definitely try some of our search operators. Again, that's our bread and butter. So some of the popular operators we've had people use are from, or has attachments, or in anywhere. So you can help kind of yourself sort through different content and filter out certain things because our search capability is really powerful. So we do realize it's a different model than what some might be used to, but we definitely encourage you to try it out. We think it will really help you get through your mail. And then similar to delegating as with Calendar, you can also delegate access to your Gmail inbox to others. So, under your Gmail settings, you can grant access to your account. You just enter in the email address of the individual that needs to have access. And then, the next thing you know, they can send messages on your behalf. And when they do that, you'll see a little kind of disclaimer sent by the certain individual on your behalf there. So we link off to specific instructions on how to set that up. But you just go into your Gmail account settings to do that. So we also have a training center on Gmail. So if you want to learn more about filters, labels, delegating your inbox, all of that great stuff, definitely check out that module. Let's quickly talk about Talk, and then I'll cover sites and quickly cover some of the consumer apps in Google. And I'll try to get through some of the questions here. We are running a little low on time here. But again, if I don't get to your question during this session today, I'll definitely document it and follow up with you, with the entire group here that attended today. So with Talk, quick, straightforward ways to use Talk. You can definitely use them for virtual office hours or meetings. So with integrated voice and video chat, you can meet face-to-face, either with colleagues in your group at your own school or with colleagues outside of your school. So the administrator of your Google Apps domain can let you talk with folks in and outside of your organization. So we're definitely seeing schools leverage that. We actually even link off to a story of a school where they had a crazy snow day, and they still were able to have a virtual class meeting all over Google Talk. And actually with Hangouts now in Google+, it's another great way to hold kind of virtual class office hours or just a class session. You can have up to 10 folks participate in a video conference and even collaborate on a doc or share your desktop with each other. It's another cool way for you to invite guest lectures too. So if you want to have a colleague from another university or from another organization present to your class in person or at least virtually, you can also do that with Google Talk or with Hangouts. And we have another module there to learn more about Google Talk. Let's talk a little bit about sites, and we're starting to see these get a little bit more momentum in the education space. So definitely one main use case of sites we see is for course pages. So with creating a site, you don't need any programming experience. You don't need to know any HTML. It's kind of like creating a doc. You just click on a few buttons and you can start typing away, and whatever you see there is what you're going to get on your web page. So you can do a lot of dynamic things with your site. You can embed videos, you can embed calendars, forms, you can add non-Google Docs forms, like maybe a Word document or a PDF. There's a calendar reminder for me. So you can add a lot of content to your site there, and I'll show you an example in a minute. So course pages, that's one way. ePortfolios, that's another way that we're starting to see schools pick that up. Clemson University, for example, they've hosted a webinar last year on how they're having all of their undergraduate students complete an ePortfolio for graduation, and they'll have faculty work with the students on that. So it's a great way to either showcase yourself or your work to internal colleagues or the whole world. You can work with them on students, so if they want to showcase their work maybe for grad school or for job applications, ePortfolios are a nice way to do that, powered with Google Sites. And again, you don't need any programming experience, so this is not just for the really highly tech-savvy students there. And then also I wanted to call out our public gallery template. So if you don't want to start from scratch, you can visit the public gallery template here. And you can start with what someone else has already done. So here's an example of a career portfolio that you can use. Here's a template. You can look at the different sections they've built, and then of course you just click on Use Template, and then you can start customizing it on your own. So that's linked off into the public presentation, so feel free to play around with that. And then sites are also really great for project sites. So if you're on a committee or a working group and you want to have an easy way to keep track of due dates and deadlines and activities and events and documents and all that great stuff, just create a Google site and then you can have all that managed in one place. So we have a lot of ways for you to customize that content. You can add widgets and countdowns. We have a lot of templates that you can use. There's actually a template we link off to here. So we have ways for you to, have a file cabinet where you can just have folks upload, specific files or documents. So again, you can just use template here, and you don't have to start from scratch. So it's a nice way to leverage our gallery out there. And on our roadmap, we'll be making even more improvements to the gallery out there, so you can have more customizations over that content. Let me quickly show you some examples of student ePortfolios. So I mentioned Clemson University, and there's actually a YouTube video of the webinar we did with them last year. If you just do a YouTube search for Clemson University ePortfolios, you should find that. So here's just some of their students that have created Google portfolios with Google Sites. So here, as an engineering student, she customized. You can upload an image to have as your background on your site. Here she embedded a YouTube video. Here she has her resumes. You can kind of go and download her resume if she's applying for a job. Here she's listed all of her undergraduate courses. Here she's listed, which courses she's taken, what it was, when she took it. And this is the file cabinet template. So this is one way to kind of create that content on your site. I think she's also embedded some Excel spreadsheets here. So yeah, you can do a lot of really robust things with Google Sites. And then also here's an example of a course page with Google Sites. So if I wanted to go back and edit, I just click on the little pencil here, Edit Page. And there's a keyboard shortcut for that too. You just click E. And then, it was pretty straightforward. I just start typing, and there it is. What I see is what I get. And there's lots of ways to insert outside comments. So I just click on Insert, and there's lots of different options. It's pretty straightforward. You just click on the button, and it will walk you through how to add it. So adding pictures, adding a link, adding a chart, calendar, a form, videos, everything is right there. You just click on it. And if you want to get more advanced, you can add gadgets to your site too. And then some of the other apps, that you can use in Google Apps for faculty and staff. So Google Groups, great for class lists, department mailing lists, committee mailing lists, discussion forums. So it's really easy for you to, send out announcements, have discussions on topics, and you can customize how you receive that email. You can, choose to see every single email individually. You can choose to have a digest or a summary. So there's different ways for you to engage with that content. And also with every Google group, there's a web page that's associated with it. So you can see an archive of the discussion on your group. So we have a whole module on sites and using groups in our training center. Let me quickly highlight some of the beyond the course suite with Google Apps here. So definitely want to call to attention mobile syncing and access. Mobile is really important for us at Google overall, especially in Google Apps. We realize everyone's on the go. We're in the classroom, we're at home, we're on the road. So definitely want to make sure you can access all of your content on your smartphone, your tablet. We definitely have a lot of apps that kind of leverage that platform there. Specifically with Google Docs, actually, there's a Google Docs Android app, and then we're also working on an iPhone app. So it's a way for you to access all of your docs and share them really quickly and see a mobile version of them. So that's definitely something we encourage you to look out. And we have links to more information here. I also encourage you to check out youtube.com/education. We've kind of revamped our whole YouTube channels and interface, so definitely check that out. And then with education, we segment out by different categories. So if you want to see science lectures or engineering or history lectures, in the university and higher ed space, we have that really curated and organized for you to check out. So you may want to record your lectures and post them on there if you want to expand your audience or your talks. And then also Blogger. I'm starting to see some schools ask me about how they can use Blogger with their classes or with any project groups. So it's a really fun and engaging way to have your students engage with material in a class and also hone their writing and creativity skills. So you can, potentially run your class with Blogger. When I was in college, I had my professor do that. It was for a history class, and every student had their own blog, and every week we had to share an update on our readings, our reflections, what we're working on, and then upload, any content we were working on too. So, any papers we had, we could add them to our blog, videos, outside links. So definitely try to experiment with this. It's still like of a newer, more innovative model, but we really think it's really powerful, and we're definitely seeing schools leverage this platform. All right, so that covers the top 32 ways. I already mentioned many times throughout this presentation that we do have a public version of this presentation I have. So, if I went over anything too fast, or if you wanted to look at things more slowly, definitely feel free to revisit that. I'm going to open it up to some questions here and see what some of you all have asked about. Definitely feel free to, submit any more questions here. I may not be able to get to everyone's right now, but I'll definitely document everything and follow up with the group. So someone asked about the 25 gigabyte Gmail limit. So that's per faculty member. So every individual Google Apps account gets 25 gigabytes of storage per user. So it's a very big amount of storage there, and that's for every user. That's all students, faculty, staff, and alumni. So that's definitely important there. Let's see. So there's a question about sharing collections with Google Groups. So yes, you can absolutely share a collection with a Google Group alias. Let me quickly go back to that there. So what you do is just enter in that email alias of the group when you're looking to share with it, and then anyone that's a member of the group will automatically inherit the settings of that collection. So if you add someone to the group, they get access to all the docs in that collection. If they're removed from the group, they no longer have access. Let's see. And then someone asked about kind of logs of access and notification of changes or access. That revision history is probably the best place for that, where you can see any changes made to a doc individually. As far as with the collection, that's not really a feature today that we have. The owner of a collection can definitely choose who they want to share a doc or a collection with. So they would know that individually, but as of today, we don't really log a history of those actions on a collection. But that is an interesting feature, and I'll definitely share that with our teams. Let's see. Someone asked if you could comment on PDFs submitted by students to a collection. So you actually cannot comment on the PDF directly. But you could do is convert that PDF into a Google Doc. So if you're in your docs list, let me just show you really quickly. Let me see if I have a PDF here. Let's see. So I'm using the search capabilities right now. Here we go. So I used the filter drill down feature here, and I looked at only PDF files. So what I could do is convert a PDF to Google Docs format. So I just click on the doc, make a Google Docs copy, and then what that will do is take all the content in the PDF, convert it over to Google Docs, and then that way you can submit comments on there. Someone asked about an Excel spreadsheet. Yes, absolutely. So if you want to import an Excel spreadsheet, you just click on the upload button, and then you choose individual files. So I can choose PDFs, Excel spreadsheets, etc., to import into Google Docs. Someone asked about forms and kind of voting and polls. Is there a way to only allow one vote per person? Yes, absolutely. Actually, what happens is for a form, there's a way to require collection of a username. And actually, let me just show you that really quickly. So when you're editing a form, there's a checkbox that says require international university users to sign in to view the form. So if you have that clicked, that will automatically collect the username of someone who's submitting the form, so they can only vote one time. So that's one way to lock that down. Let's see. Do people need a Google account to access a form or a survey? So actually, they don't. If you could, publish a form somewhere, anywhere. They don't need to be in your class. They can be public. So they can, submit data into your survey or your poll without having a Google account. So unfortunately, that wasn't a lot of time to cover lots of questions that came in, but I hope that helped a little bit. But I definitely see all the questions here, so I'll look through them and send responses out to everyone on a doc. But thank you again, everyone, so much for attending today. I hope that this was helpful and shed some light on, how schools are leveraging Google Apps for their faculty and staff. This webinar is recorded, so I'll be sure to communicate that with you all when it's up and ready on YouTube. Thanks again, everyone, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.